What's going on, everybody? I am bringing you today a list of what to buy first when on a budget, starting out in Star Wars Legion. This is going to focus primarily on Rebel units. So if you are getting into Legion, the first thing I'm going to suggest is pick a faction. It's a lot more expensive to play both factions because then you have to buy twice as much stuff. So pick one faction. Right now, there is only the Rebels and the Empire. I've already done a video for the Empire, so if you want to play Imperials, I urge you to check out that video as well. Also, if you're new here to the channel, I invite you to subscribe and click that bell for alerts so you can be notified when new content comes out. It definitely helps me out. Plus, I am running a huge giveaway that I'm going to announce just before Christmas, the winner of a Superstar Destroyer in the form of a cool stuff gift card. You can use that actually to get whatever you want. You don't have to get a Superstar Destroyer with it. It could really make your holiday. And the only thing you need to do to enter that giveaway is to become a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. I typically announce winners towards the end of videos, and this one should end on about the 21st of December, so just in time for Christmas. That being said, I'm going to be talking about Rebel units, what to buy first, how I rank a lot of different things in my ranking, and basically the things that I use to rank these are value, beauty, like the sculpts themselves, how nice they are to have. Sometimes a model that's really, really pretty will make it, be a little bit more weighted in my book. There's also the fun factor. How fun is this unit to play? And then there's also how competitive are some of these things. All four of those can kind of influence where I put something on my list. But I do want to preface all of this by saying, it really doesn't matter what I think. Like, if you're getting into this game and you're saying, you know what, I need to have this unit because that's my favorite looking unit and I just think it's gorgeous and I really want to have it. If you want a Gungan army and they sell a Gungan army at the time that you're getting, there's no Gungan army right now. But they do have Clone Wars coming for Legion. It was announced at Gen Con. So one of these days you're going to have, there could be a Gungan army someday. I don't know if they really will, but I think that would be awesome. But my point is, if there's something that you are looking for specifically that you really want, get it. Everything is good in this game. There's no, there's not really something that's a bad purchase. So anything you get, we can work with. But I think there's some things to consider. When you're on a budget, certain things are more worthwhile than others. So I'm going to talk about the first thing that you need is a Corset. Obviously, you need a Corset to play the game. The Corset is going to have all the rules. It's going to have starter units. Now, the Corset is for 2 players, so you're actually getting a lot of value out of a Corset, and you need a lot of value because Legion is an expensive game to get into. There's a whole bunch of things that you're going to need to put this Corset together. The main thing you're going to need is glue. I use Loctite super glue. It's the Ultra Gel Control. It comes out kind of like really thick, and you can just put a little dab of it on there and put your little guys on the bases, because your dudes don't come on bases, so your Darth Vader will just fall down if you don't glue him to the base. Additionally, you kind of need to glue a lot of the arms and stuff on. Most of the models you can dry fit them together, but some things you just need to glue together, like the speeder bikes. You kind of need to glue certain pieces on there, or it's just not going to look right. So glue is very important when assembling the stuff. Now, also, there's other expenses to think about, primer and paint and all that stuff. And terrain. You don't have to do all of those extra things, but it's kind of, this game is kind of designed to appeal to Star Wars fans and hobbyists alike. So if you have some time and feel like painting, this is a great game for you. That being said, you're going to get Darth Vader and Stormtroopers and speeder bikes in this box also, which you don't really, really need if you're only playing Rebels, right? So what I would caution you to do, or urge you to do, is to find somebody else who's going to be getting into this game that wants all of your Imperial stuff. Trade it to that player, and if they get a Corset also, you can take all of their Rebel stuff. So for the price of one Corset, if you and a buddy both go in, you can say, here, we'll cut them both in half. You can have all the Rebel stuff, or you take all the Rebel stuff, you give them all your Imperial stuff, vice versa. Now you have 2 Corsets worth of stuff. This is important because, for one, you're getting a lot of value. It's a $100 MSRP for this thing, but you're getting so many units. And when you compare this to other war games, it's incredibly cheap. But when you compare this to even other Fantasy Flight tabletop games, the Corset value you're getting here is tremendous. You're getting so much content in here. You're getting, 2 commanders. You're getting 4 core units. You're getting 2 support units. It's a lot. Plus, you're getting barricades. Your dice, your movement tools, your range tools, all of that stuff. So if you can't find somebody to basically to trade with, it's still a good idea to get 2 Corsets. It's nice for one, if you're by yourself or whatever, if you want to play like with your kids or your friends or whatever, it's nice to have some Imperial units they can use to go up against you with, but you're still getting a great value. The Corset, and if you break down, like, almost everything in the Corset is available to be purchased elsewhere, but if you were to buy everything in the Corset on its own in its own expansion packs, you're going to be paying like double. So the Corset's just a tremendous value compared to what you get. You can't get Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker in the standalone booster packs. You have to get them in the Corset, but everything else you can get elsewhere. So really, really great value for what you're getting. So honestly, I tell people get 2 Corsets. The reason is that can get you to an 800-point army. This is a point-based army builder game, so points are important. The game is tested, balanced, built for an 800-point list. That's the standard. If you go to play at a tournament, it's going to be 800-point tournaments. If you go play at a league, it's going to be 800 points. If you walk into a store and it's casual play, Legion Day, people are probably going to be playing 800-point games. Because it is an 800-point game, though, you can play more than 800 points or less than 800 points. You can play smaller or bigger games. It has that, but that's going to be more of the rarity. And you kind of have to schedule somebody like, hey, man, you want to play a 1,600-point game this weekend? Oh, okay, cool. But and you plan for that. But generally, what you can expect is 800 points. So a Corset just by itself is not enough to get one side to 800 points. But 2 Corsets is enough to get you to 800 points. So that's why getting a second Corset is so important. Additionally, you're going to get a lot of other things in that Corset. So if you, like, let's say you're able to trade somebody, you got 2 Corsets worth of stuff, and it only cost you 1 Corset, that's great. But let's just say you had to buy 2 whole Corsets. What do you get out of the second Corset if you're not trading with a buddy? Well, first off, you get an extra set of dice. That's a big deal because you're going to realize, now they sell dice. You can, if you only have 1 Corset, you can get an extra dice pack and all this other stuff you can get. But getting extra dice is huge because you're going to quickly learn that the Corset does not come with enough dice. You're going to see, a Z6 trooper that wants to roll way more white dice than you have. So having extra dice is just a real time saver, so you don't have to record results and then re-roll dice and all that stuff. But also you're going to get extra, there's a lot of things that are in here that are nice to have duplicates of. An extra movement tool, the extra range tools. The range tool snaps sometimes, so you can, it's great having a spare for those. Plus you're going to have now 4 Rebel Troopers. You're going to have 4 core units. You're going to have 2 ATRTs. You're going to have 2 Lukes. So if you're not even that good on painting, or you want to try and paint maybe a Luke to look different than normal Luke. Some people have painted their Luke all black with a green lightsaber, like Jedi Luke. Or maybe you just want to test it out first and just try your hand at painting before. It's nice to just have a spare Luke also. But still, a second Corset is just great value compared to how much stuff you're going to get. And also, if you're new to getting into games like this, it's kind of nice to have an extra box to store stuff in, too. When I was first starting out, I would keep everything in the box. And for all of these games, like there's other games like this, Star Wars Armada, I kept everything in the box for like the first couple of months also, because it's a big box you're getting. So it's nice getting that Corset. Very, very good value compared to other games, too. You're getting so many different units, a lot of versatility. And if you just wanted to play it by itself, the Corset, you can play a game against somebody else. Also, you're getting barricades, too, so you can use those to help with terrain. Very cool stuff. So what else should you get? Let's talk about that. I'm going to suggest the Rebel Commandos as your first expansion. Reason why is multiple. I think this is just a great value because you're getting, first off, you're getting great minis. Well, all the expansions, you're getting a lot of minis in them. Well, most of them. And in this one, you're getting 7 minis, but you're also getting 2 units in one pack, which is huge. This particular expansion comes with 2 different configurations that you can run for these guys, and you can run them both at the same time. You can run a group of 5 and a group of 2. And that's awesome. That gives you the ability to put everything in here on your tabletop right away. Whereas other trooper units and stuff, you really can't use everything in there. You have to pick, like, the regular Rebel Trooper unit has 7 minis, but at most you can put 6 of them on there, so you kind of pick how you want to build it. This one, you can put all of it on there. So, and the fact that it's 2 separate units is great. This is also the first Special Forces unit in the game for the Rebels, so it's nice to be able to to try out different units and see how they feel. You've got a sniper in there, you've got a proton saboteur guy throwing charges, so you got like your little bomber and your sniper, and then the regular commandos themselves are actually pretty good units. So it'll be a nice, this is primarily an infantry-based game. These are some of the best infantry you're going to find, so they're really good. They're really good. My only criticism against these guys is I think they look a little similar to the regular rebel troopers that come in the Corset. So, if you're painting them, you might want to paint these guys a little differently because I imagine you could potentially get them confused. But that's not much of a criticism because painting them is easy. And a lot of people, once you just get used to how they look, you're gonna know that they're different. Next up, I am going to suggest Han Solo. I think some people might disagree on your second next expansion, but I'll explain why I have Han listed here. I was thinking about suggesting Leia, but I went with Han, and here's the reasons why. Basically, at this point, once you've got 2 Corsets worth of stuff at least, I mean, maybe you've even got 3. I bought 3 Corsets, so I could really have a lot of options at the beginning, and I loved the value that it had, and I wanted to paint a lot of stuff. But then, I got once you have some versatility in your units, you want to probably think about putting another commander in there. You can run 2 commanders, and you've already got Luke Skywalker in the Corset. But Han Solo is the newest commander to come out for the Rebels, and he's a lot of fun. He's got really cool command cards, and he is kind of a blend. Leia is very different than Luke, but Han, I think, is kind of a balance between the two. Luke is very attack-oriented, and Leia is very support-oriented. And Han is a little bit attack-oriented, but not as melee attack oriented as Luke, but he's also cheap. Leia, one of the biggest advantages of bringing in Leia was that she's cheap, and so you can get more stuff in your build because Luke is a very expensive commander. So Han Solo has the advantage of not being nearly as expensive as Luke, but he is still more expensive than Leia, and you're getting a best of both worlds option here. So Han is a great commander to run by himself with all of your units. But you can potentially pair him with Luke if you are looking for a very attack-oriented build, and you can afford the points in your list to include Luke also. But I just think Han is really overall a very well-rounded, good commander that is generally going to lead himself towards a fun, offensive-oriented list. And it's a cheap expansion. The only criticism I have on this is that is basically the miniature itself. It's not the best miniature out there. Originally, there was some criticism over the way it was painted. They didn't think it looked quite right. There was something off about his face and the hair. The sculpt, when you get it, it's better than that. It's not as bad. Although, it's just me personally, I don't like the trench coat Han, because he only had that on for a short time. I thought they probably should have gone with more classic Han Solo, but I understand why they went with this particular sculpt, because he was a general in this uniform, and this game is, if you're going to have him as a commander, it seems strange to have the roguish solo. Basically, to have the episode 4 Han Solo, I don't care about you guys, I just want to get my money and get out of here. That wouldn't have made sense as a commander, so I get why they included this version. I kind of hope they do another version of Han someday with our classic attire for Han, or even Hoth Han would have kind of been cool, but it might not have been as recognizable. And this way, you can still see the black of his coat a little bit. He's still kind of recognizable. I think this was a good compromise on getting something that represents him as a commander, but also recognizable. Again, the sculpt, it's a minor criticism. You could probably swap in, for casual games, you could swap in your Imperial Assault Han. For a tournament, though, you'd have to use the regular one. Next up, some of you might disagree on this one as well, but I'll explain why I have this one here. The T-47 Airspeeder. I know this one is not the most popular unit in the game right now, but I still like it a lot, and I think for a new player getting into it, it has a lot of things that can attract a new player. First off, it's not as expensive as the AT-ST, or basically the heavy vehicle, so money-wise, this one's only about $30, so you're getting basically a heavy vehicle for the Rebels for for $20 cheaper than it would cost you for the Empire. So that's nice. But also, this is your first heavy too, so it's going to give you some new options. The T-47 doesn't really have the teeth that the AT-ST has, or doesn't have the health that the AT-ST has for the Empire. But it's a fun vehicle. It's very, very fast. It has a speed 3 and a compulsory move. This one can be a little tricky for newer players to fly, though. A lot of players who are playing Legion got this right away, though, because this launched at the same time as the Corset did. So a lot of people bought these right away so that they could diversify their armies a little bit. And I think a lot of people were kind of hoping this would have been a little better than it was. And I totally understand that. The big criticism for something like this is that Legion is an infantry-driven game. Its primary focus seems to be about infantry and troops. And so vehicles tend not to be as strong as we would like them to be. And the T-47, while it costs a big chunk of your points total out of your 800-point army, it just doesn't feel like it's as strong as it ought to be. That being said, I love the fact that it's really fast, and it can actually help with certain objectives. A lot of the objectives in this game favor infantry and lots of infantry. But I've had some fun with this one because it's so fast, especially when you're trying to get into your opponent's deployment zone. This is one that's very, very easy to do that. And so you can continue to just fly around the map with it the whole time. And then, in the last turn, let's just take 3 moves and get into my opponent's, because the compulsory move is free. So you can potentially move 3 times with it. You can really traverse the battlefield very, very quick with this. And that's one thing that makes it fun. The model itself is very, very nice looking, and it has some configuration options. You can have the flaps open or close. There's some flexibility on what you want to do with your model, and it's pretty. It's kind of pretty. A lot of people thought that the model was a little smaller than it should have been, but I think when we looked at the diagrams, it turns out the Snowspeeder really wasn't as big as people thought it was. People thought it was the same size as an X-Wing, and it's not. All in all, gorgeous mini, very, very nice mini. Fun to play, and it's the first heavy available for the Rebels, so it gives you a whole lot of new stuff that you can do, but I think it lends itself a little bit better to an experienced player, and it might not be as competitive as you would like, but I think it's a lot of fun, and it's very, very pretty. And it's not too expensive for getting a heavy. It's still a little expensive, but it's not as expensive as it could have been. All right. Next up is Leia. So Leia's great, right? Leia came out pretty early, and she was this cheap commander option for the Rebels. So that alone sold people, because they're like, whoa, I don't have to run Luke. Because the thing is, in Legion, you have to have a commander. So Leia was like so much cheaper, and she gave you so much more room. Like, oh, if I want to run 2 Snowspeeders, now I could barely do that with Luke, but now with Leia I can do that, and I have a little more points left over, to upgrade my infantry a little bit more, my core units. And so, having a cheaper commander gives you a ton of flexibility, and Leia was good for that. But Leia was also really good for, is also really good for Rebel Troopers. She can give out dodge tokens. Your Rebel Troopers have nimble, which means that, when they spend a dodge, they get to get another dodge back after combat. So that's nice. So she has a built-in synergy with stuff that you already have in the core box, which is great. And she's, she got really good command cards. That's probably her biggest strength, I think, is her command cards. As well as her, her point cost. Now, again, the criticisms here are that she's just not that strong. Like, she's not that offensive. She actually has a decent little weapon, but it's, it's not as strong as most other units in the game. So her attack is kind of weak. Her sculpt isn't that great. Like, it's that Endor version of Leia, and I'm like, there are so many other versions of Leia you could have gone with. Particularly, I kind of wanted the Hoth version of Leia or the Episode 4 Leia, like maybe with the buns, or maybe even from the ceremony, but the ceremony at the end, which was really nice, it wouldn't have worked for battle. But she was battling like crazy, in Episode 4, she, in her white dress and everything. I thought that would have been a little more recognizable. But again, this makes sense. If you're looking for Rebels going on an incursion, this is appropriate dress for Leia. It's just not the most recognizable pose out there. So when you see this on a battlefield, if you didn't know that this was a Star Wars game, you'd be like, who is that? So that's my only criticism of the looks factor. But for fun, she's pretty cool. Her 1 pip lets her shoot all the way across the board, so it was kind of fun for that. So they're actually pretty effective against enemy snipers as well, which is a really good thing. As snipers come out, they become more and more effective. So she's that 1 pip is very effective. But she's cheap. She works. She's just not as offensive as some of the other characters. And I feel like Han is just a better option if you're going to, because he's kind of like splitting the difference between her and Luke as far as offense and cheapness, and good command cards. Like Han's are different. But you don't really need 3 commanders, so I had to put Leia a little bit lower on the list. She's certainly not bad. She's not bad at all. Her value is great. It's like she's one of these like $12 expansions. You're only getting one mini in that. And that's the way all the commanders are. They're kind of cheap, but you only get one miniature. So the value in the commanders is that the fact that they're giving you new commander options, which is important because Legion is one of those games you have to have a commander. So Leia's pretty cool, but maybe not my favorite. Next up, Fleet Troopers. Now, Fleet Troopers are really, really good. So why do they rank lower on my list? Well, the answer is pretty simple. One of the reasons they rank lower is they're not really crucial for a new player on a budget. And it's as simple as that. The reason I say they're not crucial is when you get your core set, you're getting Rebel Troopers. You only need 3 core. So if you bought 2 core set, you're going to have 4 Rebel Troopers. You've already met that requirement. You don't need any more core. These guys are more of like a luxury once you've got all your bases covered. Once you've got enough stuff to play the game and maybe a few things to change up your lists, then you can look at maybe getting something like this. The Fleet Troopers are very effective. They're great. They're really great in close range, too. They're really great to go in and hold down a position. They're great to run standby. They have 2 dice per mini, which is great, but they don't have the range that the Rebel Troopers have. So they are a great way for you to change up your list and not just have all of your core be Rebel Troopers. So you can have a little bit of a little more depth of your list and a little bit more diversity on the tabletop. And they're very recognizable. The sculpts are great. They paint up real nice. Almost everything about them is great. It's just the fact that you've already got core. You really don't need this. It's more of a luxury at this point. And that's really my only criticism. One other good thing about this expansion also is that they come with some upgrades that you don't have in the core set. Like impact grenades and grappling hooks. And I don't know if grappling hooks come in the core set, actually. But they come with some things that you don't have in the core set, which is nice. Things that... you might have been tempted to buy a Rebel Trooper individual expansion, but getting this is way better than just buying a Rebel Trooper expansion because now you're getting something new with new cards also. So these guys are really good. They were hard to find for a while. I think they're starting to show up in stores again now. So Fleet Troopers are real nice. Again, it's just not one of the first things you need. The 1-4 FD laser cannon team turret. These guys, these turrets are great. They're great. They're beautiful. They're beautiful. I just don't think you need them. I don't think you need them. Again, it's one of those things. Eventually, you're going to want everything. Eventually, you definitely are going to want at least one of everything. And these guys have a great sculpt. They're beautiful. This was one of the first toys I had from Star Wars growing up. Like the first thing that was not just a figure. Like I was kind of poor growing up, but I had a few Star Wars toys, but I didn't have any of the big vehicles. I didn't have even any of the ships or anything. My friends had those, and I played with them. But I had a few of the figures because they were kind of cheap, and Relative could buy some for me. But I had this, and then something that was like a miniature version of a Lambda. But this one, I remember this one. I had a little button. I talked about it in my unboxing of this one. I had a little button that you can make it blow up. With this, a speeder bike, and then a little miniature shuttle. But and that was it. But I remembered this one, and so it's very nostalgic to me. And as a matter of fact, I painted one of mine to be like almost all gray, just so that it reminded me of the toy. Because I think they have more coloring than that. But I painted one just to look like the toy, and it was great. So what's great about these guys besides the sculpt? Well, they have range 4. So this is basically a stationary turret that you're going to deploy at one point in the map. It's got big range, but it can't move. That's my criticism. It can't move. If you're a new player to this game, you probably don't want a unit that's as punishing as this can be. Like if you don't put it in a good spot at the beginning of the game, you're screwed. That's basically it. So I think this is a unit that's better for a more experienced player. You're going to be able to take more advantage of this with a more experienced player. And it's also not something you really need because it's a support. You can have max 3 supports in an 800-point game. And you already get a support in the core set. And if you bought multiple core sets, you've already got a couple of supports. You really don't need an extra support. I mean, maybe you do. But I think the ATRT is probably going to be a better option for you. The ATRT can move, which is great. But the ATRT is a more general purpose, a more multi-purpose type of support, whereas this is more single purpose. And it can really shine in certain situations. However, it's very specific, and it's very, I think, new player punishing. So that's why this one ranks so low on my list. Next thing I'm going to recommend is the ATRT. So we've kind of covered all the expansions that you haven't already seen before. So now we're like at the bottom of the barrel. The ATRT, you really don't need. You really don't need to buy this. It's got some upgrades that don't come in the Corset, but they do come in the Snowspeeder. So if you've got a Snowspeeder, you don't need any of the cards that come in the ATRT. Additionally, you've already got one of these in the Corset. So what do you need another one for? Especially if you bought multiple Corsets like I suggested, or traded for the extra stuff for multiple Corsets. You don't need this. As a matter of fact, if you only bought, the only reason you might want this is that maybe you got 2 Corsets and you want a third support, but you don't want to buy a third Corset for that. Still, I would suggest buy a third Corset. You're still getting a tremendous value. But if that's the case, then I would suggest get the turret instead of the ATRT. Get the 1.4 FD turret. Because then you'll have at least some diversity among supports. If you've got, if you're getting that, that much stuff, and the budget has kind of gone away, now you're really kind of getting into, I need to buy everything. This really doesn't give you much. The only thing you do get out of this is that you get an alternate sculpt for your driver. It's not, he's got like 2 hands on the wheel instead of the other one holding the gun kind of up like that. So you're getting something. You're getting an alternate sculpt. And if you are a collector that's got to have one of everything, then go for it. I did buy one of these for purposes of just being thorough and complete. I have an unboxing. So I have an unboxing and review of all of these. So if you want to check them all out, you can do that as well. So yeah, that's not a whole lot of value here, really. Not a whole lot of stuff you weren't getting already. And then last but least is your Rebel Command or your Rebel Troopers. You get 2 of these already in the Corset. You don't need them. You don't need this. You really don't. It's useful if you only are getting a Corset and you want 3 core to be able to play an 800-point list. But honestly, if that's the case, get the Fleet Troopers. Now you have some more versatility. Like, there's very few cases where I would say, oh, yeah, this is a good buy for you. Like, if you just hate Fleet Troopers and you like the look of these guys and they fit into, like, a paint scheme that you want to do, then sure. If you just, maybe you really like the upgrades that come, maybe you really want the Z6 Trooper, but you don't want to buy another Corset and you just want another one of these for the Z6 upgrade or something like that, because it is a good unit. The Rebel Troopers are a good, solid unit in the game. Even though they're part of the core set, they're still good to this day. And this game, I would say, is very well designed in that it doesn't seem to really have a whole lot of power creep. I think any game is going to have some, but this one's doing well so far. Like, the core set stuff, I think, is still good, and looks like it will be good for a while. So yeah, I'm ranking the Rebel Troopers last because there's so few circumstances in which you could get this, and the upgrades that come in this pack, there are upgrades that come in this pack that aren't in the core set, but you can also get them in the Fleet Troopers pack, and this way you're getting a whole new unit. So you're just way better off getting a Fleet Trooper than a Rebel Trooper, because now you have some diversity and a whole new unit type. So that's everything as of November 2018 when I'm making this video. There are other things planned, and so there's other things that are coming out. I think there's a pack that's going to have specialists. I think that's going to be a really good pack to have because it gives you new upgrades. But we haven't seen that yet. We haven't gotten that to the table yet, so can't tell you definitively. But I would probably rank that one pretty high. I think that's one that I think is really exciting. Chewbacca is going to be coming out, and we're going to be getting Wookiees also. Those both look really interesting, but I can't rank them just yet. And anything else new that comes out won't actually be in these rankings. So if you're watching this farther in the future, I will probably do another one in 2019, and I'll probably keep up and do these. And as we get Clone Wars factions out, which they did announce at Gen Con, we are going to have Clone Wars factions in Legion. I will also do Clone Wars stuff as well. So yeah, if you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and let me know what you think down in the comments below. Be sure and hit subscribe too. That really helps me out. I very much appreciate it. And don't forget to enter that giveaway and stay tuned. I will typically announce winners towards the end of a video, so stay tuned for that. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Big thanks to all my patrons on Patreon. You guys help make all of this possible, and I love you guys. Thank you all so much for watching, and have a great day.